Okay, this is the volume and surface area worksheet. So you do have some things on your graduation test formula sheet that are going to help you here. I see the volume of a prism cylinder, and that's B times H, and this is a small thing, but you got to know this to get it right. The capital B, what that really means, what they're trying to tell you, is that's the area of the base. Okay, so that's the area of the base, that little b. Next they have the volume of a cone, that's kind of cool. 1/2, and again, b is the area of the base. And they give you the volume of a sphere. They also give us the surface area of a rectangular prism, that's a fancy word for a box. They give us the surface area of a cylinder and the surface area of a sphere. Great, okay, so we have a lot of formulas. This is probably one of the most formula-heavy areas on the test. So this one shouldn't be too bad. This is a rectangular prism. More specifically, this is a cube because all sides are the same length. But we can use our rectangular prism formulas just fine. And they're asking us to find the volume and the surface area. So the volume, if we look at our formula sheet here, for rectangular prism, it says that V, volume, is equal to B times H. So that's the area of the base times the height. So let's pick our base, and I'm going to pick kind of the bottom. It doesn't matter too much in this case, but I'm going to say the bottom of my shape is my base here. And the question is, what is the area of our base? So now I can actually look back to my rectangle formula, right? And this is because the bottom I can see is just a rectangle, right? And what are the sides? If I'm just going to draw the bottom of my rectangle, I'll draw it right here. Here's the bottom of my rectangle. So how wide is it? Well, it's 2 wide. How tall is it? 2 tall. So the area is base times height, just from my base, from my rectangle, which is 2 times 2, which is 4. So I know that capital B, or the area of my base, is 4. Okay, so my volume must be 4 times the height, which is 2. So my volume must be 8. 8, and in this case it's meters. And when we do volume, we do cubed, so 8 meters to the 3rd power. Okay, now surface area. So for surface area, we have a formula for a rectangular prism, which this is. It's just a box. A box is a rectangular prism. And it says, it's kind of a long formula, but hang in there. It says 2LW plus 2WH plus 2LH. Okay, remember that this is the length, the width, and the height. And in our case, it's actually kind of easy because the length, the width, and the height, they're all the same numbers. So that shouldn't be too hard. So let's see, we have 2, and I'm just going to plug in 2 for everything, right? So 2 times 2 times 2 plus, and I'm just plugging in 2 because I know that 2 is my length, my width, and my height. Okay, so what is 2 times 2 times 2? Well, it is 8. So I have 8 plus 8 plus 8, which is 24. Okay, so that is my surface area for number 1, 24. Ooh, and I should put meters squared, 24 meters squared. Okay, number 2. So number 2 is it's not a rectangular prism. This is actually a trigonal prism, I guess they call it. It has a triangle on the bottom. But our area, or volume, is actually still the same. I wish they had added this here. It's still base times height. When in doubt, I want you to use base times height for shapes like this. So to find capital B, which is the area of the base, we have to find the area of this triangle, right? We know the area of a triangle from our formula sheet is area equals 1/2 base times height. So in this case, we look at our triangle that's on the bottom, and we see it's 1/2 6 times 2.5. So you can use your calculator for that if you like. I think we're going to get 3 times 2. Hold on 1 second here. We'll do 6 times 2.5 times 1/2, and I get 7.5. So the area of my base, or capital B, as they use it in their formula, is 7.5. Okay, and now I'm going to use this formula. Volume equals base times height. So volume equals big B, which is the area of the base, times the height, which is 7.5. And how tall is my shape? It's 3 yards tall. So now I just have 7.5 times 3, which is 22.5, which is a fine answer. Yeah, 22.5, and it's a volume, so we're going to do the units of length here are yards, so we'll do yards cubed. Okay, so now on to surface area here. This one, I don't think we have a formula for. Right, so if you were going to worry about only a few examples, I wouldn't worry about this one as much because I don't see formulas on your formula sheet, so I think it's less likely that that'll be on your test. So, what I'd like to do next then is to kind of figure out the area of each surface, right? So we already figured out the area of this triangle, right? And that was, I believe it was 7.5. See, we did 1/2 base times height. Yeah, so 7.5. So if we look, we can just add up the area of each of the shapes that make up our triangle. So we see that we have the area of this triangle, right? And we see that the triangle on top is actually the same exact triangle, right? These are the same exact triangle. So we can add the area of the bottom triangle to the area of the top triangle. There we go. So now our job is to find the area of the other 3 surfaces. So what I see here, it's a little hard to pick out, but it looks like the rectangle in the back is going to be 5 wide. It's going to look kind of like this. It's going to be 5 wide and 3 high. So we know that the area of a rectangle is base times height. So 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, 15. And next, let's find the area of this guy over here. And it's 3 by 3. So its area must be 3 times 3, which is 9. And now let's do the area of the front. And it is 6 by 3. So its area must be 18, which is 6 times 3. So there's all of our areas. So let's add them up. 7.5 plus 7.5 plus 15 plus 9 plus 18. Oh shoot, I used the wrong thing every time. Here we go, 7.5 plus 7.5 plus 15 plus 9 plus 18. There we go, 57. Okay, cool. So 57, and this is an area, so our units should be yards squared because they gave us yards and it's an area. All right, so let's look at number 3 next, and this is a rectangular prism. Number 3 is a rectangular prism, which is just a fancy word for a box. So volume, the volume of a rectangular prism off your formula sheet is big B, which is the area of the base, times the height. So the base, if I look at the base here, and you actually get to pick which side is the base, but I'm going to make it be the bottom. So it looks like the base is a rectangle that is 17 units tall, and I guess it's 10 wide, so this is 10 meters wide. So the area of the base, big B, is going to be 17 times 10, which is 170. So we're off to a good start. And now volume is going to be base times height, which is 170. And that's our base. And how tall is it? So it's 4 tall. So 170 times 4 is 680. And this is a volume. So the units must be meters cubed. All right, and now for surface area, we're going to use our same formula we used last time. It's right here on the formula sheet. Don't worry about memorizing it. It will be given to you on the test. So we have SA equals 2 length times width plus 2 width times height plus 2 length times height. Okay, so our job now is just to plug each of these in. And we need to pick which one is which. It doesn't really matter which is which as long as you're consistent. So I'm going to say that maybe the length is 4, the width is 17, and the height is going to be 10. Now it doesn't really matter which one is which, but it does matter that each one is different, right? If I had made like this 10 and that 10, but didn't include a 17 anywhere in here, then it wouldn't work. I need to make sure that each dimension, each direction, has its own variable here. Okay, it doesn't really matter which is which, but it does matter that I don't repeat. Okay, so let's apply here. So 2 times 4 times 17, I'm just popping in the numbers here, plus 2 times 17 times 10, plus 2 times 4 times 10. Okay, so here we go. 2 times 4 times 10 plus 2 times 17 times 10 plus 2 times 4 times 10. Okay, syntax error. That's not a good sign. Oh, I keep hitting that wrong button. Here we go. Oh, and I made a mistake at the beginning. Here we go. All right, this should give me the right answer. 556. Great. So our area is 556, and it's an area, so it's going to be meters squared. Okay, so next look at number 4 for me, please. Look at number 4. So what kind of shape is number 4? It looks kind of like a ball, right? It's a 3-dimensional shape, looks like a ball. And the math word for that is a sphere. So that's called a sphere. So let's look at our formula sheet here. Do we see anything about spheres? Well, I see down here, here's the surface area of a sphere. That's cool, that'll be helpful. And here's the volume. Great. Okay, so we're good to go. Let's do volume first. So it says, our formula says volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Now, are they giving us the radius here? Think carefully. Is that the radius? No, it's not. That is the diameter, right? Remember, the diameter is twice as long as the radius. So our center is here, and if it's 4 meters all the way across, then halfway across must just be 2 meters, right? It's just half. Okay, so our radius is 2 meters. So now I can just plug in. So I'll say 4/3 pi times 2 cubed. Okay, so I know 2 cubed is 8. So I have 4 times 8/3 pi. You can use your calculator for this, but what I'll get is 24/3 pi. And I could convert that to a decimal if I needed to for the test. Just type it into your calculator. If it's still a fraction, hit that button right above the inner sign. It'll make it into a decimal for you. Okay, now we need to find the surface area. So the surface area from our formula sheet, it says 4 pi r squared. So again, we knew the radius was 2 from earlier, so it's 4 times pi times 2 squared. 2 squared is just 4, so we have 4 times 4 pi, which is 16 pi. Okay, great. Oh, and I forgot units. So remember, volume is cubed, so meters cubed. Surface area is meters squared. Okay, 4 is done. So look at number 5. Think about what number 5 is called. So what is this called? So the word for it, the math word, is a cylinder. This is a cylinder. So let's look at our formula sheet. Do we see cylinder? There we go. So we see the volume is base times height. That's cool. It's a very common volume formula. When in doubt, use that one. And the surface area, there it is. It's this kind of complicated one. Okay, so let's do the volume. So we see the volume is base times height. Remember, big B in the volume formula, that's the area of the base. So what kind of shape is on the base of a cylinder? What kind of shape is this? Well, it should be a circle. So we know the area of a circle now. Area of a circle is pi r squared. Okay. And we need to find our radius here. And they've given us, again, they've given us the diameter. Diameter is twice the radius. So if the diameter is 22, the radius should be 11 feet. So I'll say pi times 11 squared. I just plugged in the radius. And this is 121 times pi. So this is our area, and I really should call this B because it's the area of our base. And now our volume is going to be 121 pi, which is B, the area of our base, times the height, which is just 10. And that will give me 121 times 10 is 1210 pi. And I should put units. This is feet cubed. Okay, great. And now the surface area is kind of a long, complicated formula. If we have more time one day, I can explain to you where this formula comes from, but for now, it's going to be on your formula sheet, and you have more important things to worry about. Okay, so there it is. So we know radius, we know the height, so this should just be a matter of plugging in, really. So we'll say 2 pi times 11 squared plus 2 pi times 11, which is our radius, times our height, which is 10. So this is 121 times 2 is 242 pi plus 110, 220 pi, and calculator for this is fine. That's no problem. I'm just knocking it out in my head here. We're trying to. And And I should get 462 pi, I think. That doesn't sound right though. We're on number 5. Oh, it is right. Okay, cool. Great. So there's the right answer. You can, again, when you get to here, you're fine. Just type that into your calculator and that'll do the work for you. I'm not worried about your mental math so much here as I am your process, using your calculator, getting the right answer, eliminating wrong answers, all that good stuff. Okay, so we're making great progress here. Here's an actual question you could see on your graduation test. It says, global shipping uses spherical packing pellets to protect its items, or protect items in boxes during shipping. What is the surface area of a packing pellet with a radius of 2 centimeters? So see that word spherical? So that means we must be dealing with spheres, and we know from our formula sheet that the volume that they're asking for, what is, no, surface area, sorry. They want to know the surface area. So the surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared. 4 pi r squared, okay. So 4 pi, and our radius, which they give us, which is very nice of them, is 2 squared. So that's 4 pi times 4. I'll just put that in my calculator. Ooh, they left the, and I'm sorry, I won't do that. So 4 times 4 is 16 pi. The reason I didn't throw it in my calculator was because the answers have pi's in them, so I can't just make it into a decimal. You can use your calculator for 4 times 4, but we know that's just 16, so it must be C, 16 pi squared, or 16 pi centimeters squared. Okay, so we just used the formula, we plugged in, and we solved, and we got 16. Okay, number 7 says, the inside of an ice cream cone is filled with ice cream that has a radius of 4 centimeters and a height of 6 centimeters. Assuming that a half scoop of ice cream is in the shape of a hemisphere and that it fits perfectly on top of the cone, find the total volume of ice cream. Use 3.14 for pi and round your answer to the nearest tenth. Okay, let's draw a picture. There's a lot going on here. So we have a cone, just like an ice cream cone like this. And on top they have what they're calling a hemisphere. So don't let that word scare you. All a hemisphere is it's half of a sphere. So in this case, our hemisphere is going to look just like this. It's just half of our sphere. It has a radius just like a sphere. There's our hemisphere. So our job is to find the volume of this and the volume of this and add them together. Let's work on our hemisphere first, actually. So to figure out, and let me add this real quick. So we know that the radius of our hemisphere is 4, and the height of our cone, this is also the radius of our cone, is 6 centimeters. This is centimeters. So let's do our hemisphere here. So to find the volume, we're going to use our sphere volume formula, which is 4/3 pi r cubed. But what you're probably thinking here is that's not the formula for a hemisphere. And my response is that we're going to find what the volume would be of the entire sphere, and we're going to divide by 2 at the end. And the reason for that is, this is just half of a sphere. So I'm able to just find the volume of a whole sphere of the same size and just divide it by 2 at the end. So here I'll say 4/3 pi, and I'll plug in my radius, 4 cubed. And there's no pi's in the answer, so I'm just going to go ahead and go to decimals. So 4/3 times pi times 4 to the third. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2, and that should give me the volume of my hemisphere. So I divided by 2 again because a hemisphere is just half of a sphere. So I got 134.04. Okay, and now let's do our cone. Let's look at our formula sheet. And it says the volume of the cone is 1/3 base times height. And again, that's that capital B, which means the area of the base. So in this case, our base is going to be this circle. Imagine, a regular cone is maybe drawn like this, right? And the base is this circle. So our cone's kind of upside down, but remember the base is just going to be that circle. So what's the area of the base? Let's figure that out first. So we know it's a circle, and the area of a circle is pi r squared, and our radius is 4. So that's going to be pi times 4 squared, which is going to be 16 times pi. Okay, and our formula just says to do 1/3 base times height. So this is our area of our base. This is big B. So if we do times 16 pi times our height, which we know is 6, then we should get the volume of this shape of the cone. So let's do that in the calculator. I'll do 1 divided by 3 times 16 pi times 6. And I'll get close to 100, so 100.53. So hopefully, when I add these two together, I'll get a reasonable answer. Okay, so I'm going to add this to this, and let's cross our fingers for an answer that actually makes sense. And I get 234.5. Okay, cool. So that looks like answer choice A. So that must be the right answer. So this is a hard problem. We had to break it down into 2 parts, find the volume of each. That is a full-on, very tough graduation test problem. Okay, 1 to go. This says, given the figure below, determine the surface area of the sphere. This one should be a little bit better. It only has 1 step, or 1 part, I should say. So our surface area of a sphere, right here, it's 4 pi r squared. So here we go, 4 pi. Our radius is 4.7 squared, and there's no pi in our answer, so I'll just figure out the whole answer here. Okay, and I get 277.59, which is very close to answer choice B, so my answer must be B. Okay, great.